I love meat. I love meat. Thank you, Steak Locker, because we've been aging meat here at home. We have this beautiful piece of 61-day dry aged beef, but most importantly, we have a super mentor, my master of meat in my life, Mr. Walt Grata. He's been guiding me on my meat journey for what, almost 20 years, Walt?
Almost 20.
Oh my gosh, it's
Give or
amazing.
take, without circling the calendar, I'd say that's.
I wouldn't know about Corabuta pork or the fine Himone Iberico or any of those products without you. And so I've never butchered some bone-in stuff. We've got some challenges. We have another one we're going to do later. These come from Wild Fork Foods. And we have another one we're going to do later with a bandsaw. But today we're going to take a peek at how to deal with this problem on the bone. We've got some sharp Global knives. We've got a deboning knife, the Global G2, the standard, and a Global butcher knife as well. Make sure we got the right kind of steel to steel this meat so we can put it into our mouth.
We can do that.
All right. So, well, help me out. Teach me.
Okay.
I've never done this before.
What we're going to do, because of the difficulty of this bone running through here, it would be almost impossible and do a very ugly job to try to come through and whittle our way through these bones. It's like a circus, so there would be uneven cuts and uncomfortable and wouldn't look good on your plate for all the costs that you've gone into and also all the time you've invested in this piece of meat. So instead of doing that, what we're going to do is we're going to pull, and if you can see, because of the dry aging, the meat is shrinking, and it's actually pulling the meat away from the bone as the size of the steak gets smaller. So what I'm going to try to do, and once again, like this is as hard as my head, like this.
It's jerky, basically, at this point in time.
This dry age piece of equipment works as good as I've ever seen. But the deal is, try to come down through.
So you're just riding the edge of the bone.
Riding the edge of the bone the best that we can, and moving it back and forth so that we can try to keep an eye on it, not waste any meat. But
you know we don't waste meat here. When we trim non-bone products, I take them, I cut them down into small little chunks about that big, and then I put lard in the frying pan. And then I reduce their fat, and I make a big happy marriage of lard and beef fat and the beef bark from this. And then I stick them in a bag, and I feed them to my dogs. Boy, I'll tell you what, they love those dog treats. They're their favorite.
Or wouldn't they be?
Oh, you need to hold it.
See, but right now it's to get the separation. Once again, what we run into with a bone-in piece of meat when you try to do this is there's no give to the meat, simply because the moisture is gone out of it.
Oh, it feels like it's starting to loosen up.
Pulling away, they have to be careful.
We almost need like a meat clamp.
Yeah.
Oh, you had a butcher shop for a whole bunch of years.
40 years.
How many animals would you say you've cut up?
I hate to think.
you deboned turkeys for me and ducks, so we can sew them together and make our turducken.
We have.
Yeah, and you're working on opening a specialty food store.
We're looking at bringing what I've done for my life. See, that's pretty good.
The color's good beneath the bone here. We're almost at edible product, right?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Look at that.
What we've done is we've pulled this away, and once again, it's pretty good for not doing it for a while. And you can see that I was successful, because you can see the shine of the bone here.
Oh wow, you like nailed.
Yeah.
The only wasted product are these couple little dots here. That's amazing, and you can see on the outside, the process of dry aging essentially removes the moisture from the meat, makes this protective barrier, and then what goes on inside here is just kind of magic. The enzymes are acting, and everything's kind of softening up and whatnot. But yeah, so the bone cap in this case really protected, the cut of meat, because now we have edible product underneath. You can also see here how we have that, and You know, it's interesting because this didn't go as deep with the bark as some of the other stuff, because we did a Wagyu MS3 product from Medium Rare Foods in Pittsburgh.
We did.
And Shane got us that fine stuff. That was so big we couldn't even fit it in the meat locker.
It was split it, right?
Yeah, to split it to put it in there.
Yeah.
All right. Now that doesn't look like steaks. How do we make that into steaks?
Well, what we're going to do is, actually, I think the best way to do this right now is make sure that all the bones are out of it, because it's the outside of this meat is so hard. And I was thinking, and we're okay. It's hard to distinguish that when it gets this dry.
It feels like a big bone.
It does. So what we're going to try to do is, the first thing we need to do is we need to cut and shave away this. And once again, this becomes a little more difficult whenever you're doing it by hand as opposed to a bone saw. Like if we had my meat saw hooked up, all you do is you cut it in 1/4 inch, make it disappear, and then you basically look at the meat, and when it turns to where you want to eat it, then that's when you start doing it. But with this, basically all we're going to do is this. We're going to try to shave it down as thin as we can. But man, this is really dried out. I would think what we need to do is as we continue this project, not this project my hands on, but this dry age project that Mike wants to do, is that what we need to do is we're going to need to get a scale, and we're going to weigh this green weight or fresh weight, and then as it gets older, maybe at, I don't know, 30 days, take it and put it on the scale and record it to see how much weight loss occurred.
I almost don't want to know.
Well, yeah.
Because we know these are very special products, and I know the last one I did a 66-day dry age on the MS3 Wagyu, and boy, I had about as much trim as I had steaks. But I'll tell you, those steaks had like the notes of blue cheese. My gosh, they're so good.
But if you look into this, like, you can see what we're talking about, and even though this was the first cut of that, you can see that that is almost a black, dark brown at least. We turn into this where we start to shave this away, and it starts to become looking more like a piece of beef.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the option here and the idea is, no matter what, after we cut this steak, like we're going to trim that off and pull this fat off of it to be edible.
Right.
But my question to you is, like, we cut that piece off and we can see that this is a little softer than that.
Yeah.
But also, like, we can see that, and this is starting to be going to be usable and edible the way that it is, Mike.
Okay.
So your decision is, do you in fact want to start using this as your steak?
This color here?
Yeah.
That, for me, that color is good. Obviously, this color, that's got to go. But that's about the color that I'm comfortable with.
Well, then what we should do is, like, maybe we should start to cut steaks out of this.
Yeah, and then we can just trim that.
We can pull off what isn't desirable. That way we won't waste anything of it. So where do we want to go with this? That's an inch. My knuckle is an inch.
Of course your knuckle's an inch.
That's an inch.
Yeah. Do you want to do it? Inch steaks?
Up to you.
I say let's do it.
Okay. So we're going to do that. I'm going to try to come down through. Try to make a solid, clean cut. Once again, this is like night and day trying to cut a piece of fresh meat as opposed to 60-day. But once again, we take a look at the outside. And as it goes into the inside,
look at that.
You're going to see it starts to get its color.
Yeah.
But here,
we've got to lose at least that, right?
Right.
Okay.
That's where I would be with it. But once again, that was because that was protected and that was used by the dummy. You can see it's soft.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing.
I'm going to learn by doing here with you. So maybe I'll take this guy.
Yeah, you trim it.
Or there's going to, well, let's see here. How are we going to get that guy off there?
But the outside of this is like it's not, it can't, like you can only hear me talking about it. But the outside of this, because of all the moisture that it pulled off,
right,
is like a shoe. You're going to have happier dogs than you think you have. But the fat of this also seems to change the feel of the fat, where it's almost like a greasy, like a lanolin.
Yeah, I bet it's good for moisturizing your skin, perhaps.
I had this when I cut meat every day, especially pork. I had probably the softest hands. And it's been a real change for me because I worked in a coal mine for almost 10 years.
I bet cutting meat's much better for your hands.
And my hands were like leather at that time because that's what coal mines do.
Oh, these are looking gorgeous. And there's not a lot of waste on the outside of these. I mean, we got to trim the fat, but it's interesting because the cap really held nicely, the fat cap here.
It did? It did. So we'll probably get one. We're going to get 2 more steaks out of this one and one more until we run into the black of it, I think.
Right.
So that'll be that. But once again, as you get through, you'll see there's very little change in the steak itself, like the darkness, if you can grab on that, and the redness.
Yeah. So like this color difference here, is this more dry age than that? Or what's the? How do we know?
I think it comes to where the closeness of the fat and the air to be able to get into the meat.
Yeah, look at this marbling. I mean, this is really nice. And this is grass-fed, grass-finished.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This is, I wanted to try, because we did, with the
Absolutely.
Wagyu, I wanted to try something that was a little bit less quality than the high end of the Wagyu, but I think this looks great.
It does look great. I'm surprised at the
This feels good. There's some little color issues here, but I think you got those corrected. And this is just the end. This is why I'm trimming off some of these pieces here. But I think once we get to these, they're just going to be perfectly, more straight cuts.
And once again, you get
is that the cap? Yeah.
That's the outside, and that's really not desirable. Yeah. But I think we're okay with this. Like I can shave a little piece of this off if you think that will work. My opinion is I don't think you need to.
Yeah. What do you think about this little experiment that I just did? How does that look?
It looks fine.
All right. We got steak number 1. And steak number 2. Oh, it kind of pains me that we're cutting this off, but it also has a pack of dogs hovering over not far in the distance.
It does. You take a look at what I'm doing. If that's
that looks great.
Like it's up to you to put it because you got to put this in your mouth.
Yeah. Boy, they just now that we're through the hard stuff, boy, they just kind of. Like you can feel the softness. It's still firm because, they're in the dry ager 39 degrees. And if you don't know dry aging, the whole idea is we have a relative humidity of about 80% inside the dry ager. And you want to be about 36 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit. That keeps the meat cold, reduces the opportunity for bacteria. And the Steak Locker product has ultraviolet light in there so that when you actually do open the door, there's a bacteria killing vent that happens. Are you liking this?
Sure.
You're the man. You've taught me everything I know about meat.
Well, because I cut meat to yield, I've always tried to let as much edible as I thought to even stretch it a little bit.
I like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the way the fat's in here. I think that's going to cook out really nicely.
It will cook out
And, you know,
great.
some people don't like fat in their steak. I eat it first.
I do too.
Oh, that looks great.
But I would let that be. And I would let this one just come down through here.
There's a lot of philosophy on the best way to cook steak. You gave me a fine gift a few years ago. These beautiful wooden plates.
Oh yeah.
That you cook it on the cast iron on the skillet on the stove top,
Yep.
and then you grab the cast iron plate, slide it right onto your wooden plate, so you got a hot sizzling steak there. But I've been really enjoying sous vide them.
Yep. Sous vide is a great way to do it.
130 degrees, right around there, maybe 129, and that way you have a little bit extra.
Yep.
To really get that sizzle and that crust on the outside. And
That's
people have a lot
right.
of different philosophy about seasoning, but you've taught me well. Olive oil, coarse kosher salt. It's all about all you need. You could use some pepper, a little bit of pepper.
But you taste it so you can taste the meat. Now, here's the deal. And here's the end of the story. You want to take a look at this, and out of this we got 1, 2, 4. We've got half a dozen steaks weighing, that's probably 10 ounces.
So we got 60 ounces of steak. That started out as 8 pounds.
That was my question.
So that's 148 ounces.
Yeah.
So we're over 50% loss.
We are over 50%.
And you know, a big chunk of that weight loss is the bone.
Absolutely.
You know.
But when you come down through, you need to get a wiggly knife if you're going to pull this stuff away. But once again, as we started on this journey, we talked about this and we talked about this. And if you can imagine this being that whole piece, as hard as it is, like it's cut down through there, where we would have got 3 steaks.
They would have been big handle
They would have been
steaks.
big. And, but if you could see how clumsy this would look on a plate,
Yeah.
if you can imagine that,
You get a handle for your steak that way.
you get a handle for your steak.
Yeah, gnaw on it.
But once again, as you come through here, like at this point, even though the whole world seems like it's fine and going smoothly, when you hit this, you also hit that bone there, if you can hear.
Right.
So it stops going smoothly as a nice even cut.
Yeah.
And it
So
turns into this.
if you're cutting between my bones on me,
Yeah.
right, you'd be cutting
Correct.
right back in here in
Yep.
this area. And that's where that like really beautiful sort of
Yep.
large chunk of meat is.
But it gets clumsy.
Right.
If you can imagine the steak being on here, we can reassemble it. It's backwards. But if we can reassemble it in a manner, you can see how ugly this end of the steak is going to be.
Right.
Terrible. Like oh yeah, I put it on a plate, you cook it, it's wonderful. Then you get to here and you're showing people like this great piece of meat that you spend a lot of time, and then you have this,
wonky curl.
yeah. It looks like hell.
Well, this is great. I really appreciate you saving the day because we don't have access to a meat bandsaw. And if there's one person that I know in the world that could figure out how to solve this problem, it's the master of meat, Mr. Walt Grata.
But once again, like you can take a look at them, they look like you don't want to serve them to people.
Yeah. Well, I know a dog that would love this, but
Oh,
I also know a wife that doesn't want to pay dentist bills at the
the dog.
veterinarian
Yeah.
because we've had some dogs
I agree.
break some teeth on some good bones. But man,
That's the deal.
this
That's
is great.
That's the amount. Like if you can take a physical weight of this,
Yeah,
probably
I do.
50-50, maybe even more loss
I
than
think
gain.
we got more loss than gain, but I think we have more gain for
Oh, yeah.
for our next piece on this, which is going to be how are we going to cook this and what the hell does it taste like? Because at this point, 61 days, you're going to start to get the blue cheese notes.
You will.
You're going to start to get a little funk. I've eaten oldest dry aged product I had was 72 days, and boy, it had the faint smell of garbage, but it was soft.
Absolutely.
And just you could cut it with a fork.
Yeah.
Oh, that smells great. That absolutely smells great. Well, I hope that you maybe learned something today because I sure did. And I thank you, Mr. Grata,
Absolutely.
for coming and joining me.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it. No, we just got fat on each other's hands.
Can you feel the difference?
Oh, your hands are so soft.
They are.
Well, hope you guys learned something today. I sure did. Have a great day.